Hello there, YouTube. Welcome to episode 3 of the Unnamed Game Code podcast. This is Gilbert S. I am your wonderful MC, and I shall take you through my meanderings. Again, today we will be talking about Murders and Mayhems in horror genre. I'm not a big horror person. I enjoy. I think horror is a fun genre. I don't really watch horror movies. I'm not a horror person. I don't like to scare myself. I have an overactive imagination. I scare myself more than enough. With my basics of anxiety and fear of the world, I don't need to compound my fears by watching scary stuff. So for me, horror isn't my bag. But we made a horror game called Murders and Mayhems, which is a Chutes and Ladders style game. It was initially inspired in my discussion with Kaylin Hale, who is an awesome individual with D3. If you have some time, stop in and check out Kaylin. They are an amazing individual doing some amazing things like the Alexandria Library. I believe that's what it's called. A design for about 20 designers, I believe. They're doing some amazing things in TTRPG space. They're a wonderful individual. They're hype crazy, and I really don't think we'd be where we are without some of the help from Kaylin, who's been gracious enough to help us out as fledgling and new to the industry. The industry side, because I've been playing TTRPGs for a very long time and board games for a very long time. So it's Caredwin. That's besides the point. So, I'm not. If you ask me like what's my favorite TTRPG in horror genre, I would say that it's not Call of Cthulhu. It's 10 Candles. I don't know if people know 10 Candles. It's the notion that the world is turned completely dark. It's very Cthulhu-like, in which all the stars are gone, the sun is gone, everything disappears, and it's complete black. And there's 10 candles on the table, and you have a shared dice pool. And as you progress through the game, your dice, every time your dice start to diminish, and eventually and candles start to diminish, and eventually at the end of the game, the last candle goes out and it ends bad. It's tragic horror, as Stephen Dewey said in the game. It is a phenomenal game because you know full well it's going to end bad. If you look at 10 Candles, there's some mirrors to it to This Night and Then, because initially This Night and Then was a 10 Candles hack. A lot of people do not know that, but because of the pandemic, because of us all going virtual one day, we all looked at 10. I looked at our This Night and Then game and said, we can't do 10 candles, so we have to adjust, and we did. So here we are. And so my favorite thing about 10 Candles is that it's such a creepy game. You can watch the candles go down. The mechanic built into it really helps creates the sense of tension. The reason that I like it is because it's played in the dark, so creates a very strong atmosphere. It's best played in the dark. I don't think you have to play in the dark, but you play with 10 tea light candles, and it can be hard to see the candles because it's really dark. But I think that was my only criticism about the whole thing, is 10 candles is not enough light. And I would have gone with regular candles, not 10 tea light candles. But that's just me personally. And I in the future, if I run it, it would not be with 10 tea light candles. And it's not always easy to play in places because fire hazards and all those things. But when you can play with a group of friends at home, it is an amazing game. I ran it at KublaCon in 2019. I showed up with 5 people signed up to the game, and 7 people were we're hoping to crash, and I did not have the heart to turn them away, so I ran a game with 12 people. And if you're listening to this, yes, that was me who ran that game for you all. And if you were one of those people, I hope you enjoyed it. but I was running multi-party spectrums. I was like splitting parties. I was running things, and it was crazy. I'm not a person who generally want to run a table that large, but I only had one slot for 10 candles for that convention, and I wasn't just going to be like, I'm sorry, get out. I'm not taking you. So I worked with everybody. I increased the dice pool, and I had to be on my toes, and I had to split parties, and I had to jump here and there, and I had to give everybody chances. And one or two of the players from that really, said that they love the game so much that they decided, like, we're going to run this in the future for ourselves. And I actually run to one of those players at Big Bad Con, and they were like, yeah, I run that game all the time. And I'm just like, that's so cool. So when you inspire somebody to, like, love a game that you love yourself, it's great. But yeah, I love 10 Candles. And the reason that I don't generally like horror as a genre to write, other than the fact that I just don't like to scare myself any more than I already scare my own self, is that it's hard to write mechanics. Because, like, a lot of horror is so dependent on a GM to make the atmosphere scary. Like, the monster crawled out from under the bed, and it looked at you, and it went, I mean, that's exactly what horror is. And it's sorry, I coughed. But that hurt my throat. My point being is that it's so like, a lot of horror is so dependent on a GM to make it scary. It's not like something you can just write. Like, you can't write scary. Scary is going to be something that's created through tension and atmosphere. So writing mechanics that create that is very difficult. You can write all of the lore in the world, but if you don't have a mechanic that can create it, it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, but you have this D20 and you have these creatures that you can run. And, well, yeah, but I mean, that's not... It's also very hard to, like, stay in the moment of fear when you're thinking about rolling dice. Like, imagine, like, you're gonna... Okay, and the monster jumps out. Okay, now what? Roll a die. Oh, okay. I rolled a 7, and the monster eats you in a blood-curdling death. Like, okay, I'm so scared. I'm sorry, this really takes you out of it. Like, it's hard to stay, like, into it if you have mechanics. Like, there's some things that are very, like, momentum based, and that forcing any mechanics that take you out of it make it very difficult to play. Horror is just a genre that really requires momentum. Like, you're only scared as long as you can stay in the moment. You're only tense as long as you can stay in the moment. And the reason that, like, a game like Dread is really good for this is because it keeps you in that moment. The tension is from the dice, from this tower of dread, and you're watching it, and every time you pull a piece from the dread, you just know full well that it could come tumbling down. And that sense of, like, we're on a knife's edge at all constant times makes Dread interesting. Like, that's those are the sort of systems that you're trying to create. You're trying to create these buildings of, like, genre mechanics that are fascinating. But that's the problem, is that it's hard to create that in a mechanic, because the traditional RPG does not work for this. Like, it's so... I mean, yes, you can write a game that can be scary. You just have to have the GM run it. Like, the GM has to be a good horror GM, and that's it. That's the truth. There's no such thing as a mechanic that really works. And people are gonna be like, "No, Gilbert, there is." And, like, no, really. Like, if you have to stop to determine success, you've lost it. You've lost the moment. You've lost the sense of, like, where we are, and that's literally my issue. And so, And so the problem, and that's why I just don't think horror games are my thing. Like, it just doesn't. It's hard to write it. It's hard to think of it. and and I might have people disagree with me. There's definitely some horror fans out there that would be like, "No, you can do it," and I'm like, "No, because the mechanic." And that's my viewpoint. You can disagree with me all you want, but I think the mechanic is impeccably difficult to position to make it interesting, and that's why when we did Murders and Mayhems, I understood full well that this horror game is not going to get anywhere near what it needs to be, and so like I started with the notion of, okay, what's a game that can suddenly surprise you? And it's like, okay, and I went through all of the board games out there, and I was like, okay, Candyland, no. Sorry, maybe. Like, I thought maybe like a Sorry version might have been interesting for a horror game. Clue is not. I mean, that's literally just. That's not gonna work unless you're trying to find the monster or something. And so I went through a couple of things. I was like tic-tac-toe, and I was like, no. And I thought maybe the game of life, and I was like, no. And I wanted to have something that can move seamlessly. So I really was inspired by Dread, and I was really inspired by this sense of like, it has to be rules light, it has to work. And so, I went through board games, and I was like just toying around, and I thought, what about Chutes and Ladders? Chutes and Ladders is really fun. You climb because you feel success, and then you have to shoot it down a ladder, and it's like, oh no, yeah. What if it Chutes and Ladders, and what if so we have so we created this Chutes and Ladders slasher, and it has to be slasher because slashers are not scary to most people. Slashers are just tense, and they're like, oh no. And so one thing that we want to do is create that chase feel, like that happens in slashers. Like, oh no, it's coming after us. But we understand it's tongue in cheek. Like, I don't look at Murders and Mayhems and say 100% this is a serious like horror game. Like, I imagine that we're gonna play this game and be like, we're gonna play 1980s slasher with it. We're gonna play like the sleepover death chronicles or something. I don't know. But the notion is like the cheerleader sleepover massacre. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, cheerleader sleepover massacre or something. But my point being is that it's the play that it's campy. It's slashes are dumb because it's always the one. If you're gonna make fun of a movie, it's always gonna be a slasher you make fun of because all of the tropes are in slashers. Like, oh no, even like Scream made fun of slashers. They're like, oh no, there's a if you're not a virgin, you're gonna die in this one. Minorities always die early. Mind you, I'm a minority. So but it's true. Like, minorities always die early, and that's what we made fun of. So if we understand full well that slashers are kind of a joke, then you can kind of make a genre out of it. So it really isn't a serious game, but there was components in there that we were like, okay, we have to create this, we have to create this, we have to create this. So first of all, we want to create that chasing feel, because like if you're rolling a d4, if you're only going to get to roll a d4 in this game, which is all you get a d4, and it's the most jagged dice possible. If you're rolling a d4 and you have 100 spaces, and the average space is about 2 to 3, like if the average thing is a 2 roll, then you're going to roll 50 times before you get to the top on average. mathematically stating is that you're going to roll 25 ones, 25 twos, 25 threes, 25 fours. Well, not that, 25% fours, 25% threes, 25% twos, 25% ones is what I mean. Sorry. The average is going to be about 2 to 2.5. You're going to roll maybe between 40 to 50 rolls. That's a lot. So we don't want to, we need to create a thing in the game where like the killer pops out and chases after you so we can give you a bunch of rolls. Okay, that's the first part. And then we want to have the chase feel like it could be a minefield. Like you could get lucky or you could get horribly screwed. And that's what we sort of started with. We started with this notion that we're going to create, and then that's where the chutes and ladders comes in, because you can take a ladder and climb all the way up and escape, and you're safe. Or you can hit a chute and you can go beneath the under the killer, and you automatically have to you use an escape item, or you're going to have to die. So what do you do? And so we also created havens. So it's not just an endless chase. So as soon as you hit a haven, you're good. And there's 4 total in the game. So there's a number of ways to escape. And there's 15 possible times the killer can appear. If 4 players hit a haven, they can get up to 4 escapes. So that means that it's mathematically inclined to help you. You're mathematically inclined to survive this and win the game, but it's also still a matter of luck. You could still get caught. You could still get slaughtered. You could still hit. You could still, get caught on a chute and die anyway. So it does have that sense of uncertainty in the game, and so you're rolling 4s. You have a 25% chance to roll a 4, which is great because that's the one you want, because you can that will allow you to choose the number between 1 and 4 on how to try and climb up. And so there's these very mechanic things that were created in order for us to create and ramp up tension. So 15 possible killer spots. If you play with 3 to 4 players, and you have 16 possible times you can hit a haven and get yourself some sort of safety. These are really good stuff. And, but you can still die. It's not necessarily guaranteed. It's also not necessarily guaranteed you run to a killer. So, I was very cognizant of this, and I understood full well that Murders and Mayhems is a tongue-in-cheek game that's become. If you look at the map for Murders and Mayhems, it's just got tons of dead stick figures, and then what we also wanted to do is we wanted to push. We want to also let Chutes and Ladders, the Chutes and Ladders, create a sense of movement for the story, because it can't just be like, oh, you hit a chute and then you're like, oh no, we lost, because it's not a fun game if all you're doing is moving across the map. So you really do want to hit those chutes, and you really do want to hit those ladders. And whenever you hit a chute, somebody in town dies. Whenever you hit a ladder, you reveal a secret of the killer. And that really, that makes you investigate things. If, in 1983, Johnny was found dead, hung on a tree outside of the school. He was bound, or something like that, and people would be like, oh, let's go check out that tree. And they find there's initials on the tree, and it says Johnny and Sarah forever. And you're like, who's Sarah? And then you discover things along the way, and you find out that Sarah's blank, and yada yada yada. And then it becomes this very interesting so a lot of the stuff that we decided on Murders and Mayhems is very purposeful. Like we always say, purposeful design has to be purposeful. So the first module that we created, the only module we have for it, is the ice cream killer, which is a very fascinating story, which I thought, this is a really good way to do it. But if you want to write one for us and submit it, we'll gladly include it in our book or whatever it is. Or if you want to try the game out, you can find it on our Ko-fi. It's still part of 31 Days of Games. It's still a free game. Motorcycles passing by. Like I said, very busy street. This is just going to be a running thing for this whole episode podcasting. People are going to tell me that I should try to edit it out or do some sort of thing to it. I should edit out all the ums and deep breaths and all the stuff, but I think that I'm just never going to. People will be like, this is the most unprofessional podcast ever. Yes, it is. This is what happens when the designer of the company decides to make the podcast, and I am not a radio. I'm not a personality. I'm just the snarky designer who's like, well, we'll talk about the games I create, and if you like them, cool. If you don't, well, I don't. Well, forget you. No, but seriously, no. Yeah, so back to Murders and Mayhems. I like horror. I think horror is fun. I think the thing that I'd like to challenge myself on in the future is to confront the horror genre that I'm most scared of. Like, I don't like poltergeist movies. I don't like ghost movies. I don't like movies where I can't punch something. Like, if I was having a nightmare about this movie, I'd be like, I need to punch it. Like, I can't. It's an incorporeal being. Ah, crap. So I really like the notion of that as a game. I mean, something that I might want to do in the future is sort of confront what I'm most scared of, which is those type of horror movies. Those are the movies I dread, and I don't go near them. I have never seen a Paranormal Activity in my life. I will never watch a Paranormal Activity in my life. I will never watch the haunting movies. I'll never watch any of those. It's not my thing, not my bag, not my thing. And when it says, "Look, you have to watch it," I'm like, nope, it's nope, can't punch it. Nope, that's the rule. I have to be able to punch it. Like, even Freddy Krueger, I could punch him in my dream. But this itself is like, nope, I pass. But yeah, I think that's something I'd be interested in trying in the future myself as a designer. I think you have to confront some things, and I think that's a good way to do it. And I don't think I'd ever still watch it after I confronted it, but I definitely would make it into a game, and I think it'd be a fun challenge. But I think I'd be scared the whole time while writing, and I was like, oh no, am I calling forth ghosts? No, but that's and the problem when you design something like that is, how do you make it scary? How do you make it, like, other than a GM just going, and the little girl was possessed, and her eyes rolled back, and she, like, crawled on the floor and, like, kicked you. I told you I can't GM an RPG. Trust me, it's just not my thing. Not horror. Like, I would just crack up the whole time. And then the monster. I can do zombie things. I think a zombie game is something I enjoy. I think zombies are fun to play. I know I have a friend who just can't. You run zombie anything, they'll be like, nope, I'm leaving the room. That's the same with me for ghosts. I'm just like, nope, I'm leaving the room. But I think zombie stuff is fun. It's like, I don't know if the brain thing works. I just think the flesh-eating zombies are more scary. The notion that it doesn't matter what your brains are, it just matters that they're your spongy flesh. Yummy, yummy, yummy. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It is going to be a much shorter one today. If you like what we do, please like and subscribe. If you want to continue listening to more of these, I don't know why. Masochist, maybe. Please continue to support. Please, we love the support. You can check out our 31 Days of Games. They are still on our Ko-fi. And will be released soon to the general public on our itch as a full-on compendium. If you liked Murders and Mayhems, you can find it there. It is a wonderful game, and it is silly fun, and we should have, in maybe the future, an AP out there, because I think it's one of those games that I'd really like to turn into an AP. Have a good day, everybody, and thanks again for listening.